And a quorum being present, I'll now call the town meeting to order. I'll ask the town clerk to come up and read the warning and the return.
Warrant for the special town meeting, Wednesday, March 14, 2018, 7 o'clock p.m. To either of the constables in the town of Freetown, greeting. In the name of the Commonwealth, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Freetown who are qualified to vote in town affairs to meet in the Freetown Elementary School Auditorium, 43 Bullock Road, East Freetown, Massachusetts, the 14th day of March 2018 at 7 o'clock p.m. then and there to act on the following articles. And you are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies thereof at the following places: the Soda Post Office, East Freetown Post Office, the stores of Quick Pick in East Freetown, Junior's Convenience Store, and Freetown Town Hall, and the Freetown Communications Center. Hereof, fail not and make return of the original warrant with your doings thereon immediately after making service thereof to the town clerk of the town of Freetown, Massachusetts, given under our hands and seal of the town of Freetown this 20th day of February, Anno Domini 2018, signed by the Freetown Board of Selectmen. To the town clerk, town of Freetown, Massachusetts, February 21st, 2018. I have this day posted attested copies of this warrant in the designated places described herein. Signed, Carlton E. Abbott, Junior Constable.
Okay, so just a reminder, the non-voting section is the front two rows on this side. Everybody else, hopefully, if you checked in, you got the vote ticket. I don't know what color we used tonight, but purple. So if there's a hand count for any sort of reason, that'll be what you'll hold up to get your vote counted. Also remember too, please, that if you come up to the microphone, just state your name and general idea of where you live. Even a Sonnet or East Freetown is fine if you don't want to get too specific. So with that, we'll get going. Article 1. To see if the town will vote to rescind the vote taken under Article 13 of the annual town meeting held June 5th, 2017, which authorized the town to convey approximately 123 acres of land to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation and/or take any action relative thereto. This was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. It requires a majority vote. The Finance Committee recommends this article.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt Article 1. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Article 1 is adopted unanimously. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of the parcel of town-owned property described below from the border officer currently having such care, custody, maintenance, and control for the purpose for which said parcel is currently held to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of disposition by sale, lease, or otherwise, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation on such terms and conditions and for consideration of $60,000 as the board deems in the best interest of the town, fee or such lesser interest in the parcel of land in East Freetown located on Chase Road shown on Assessor's Map 240 Lot 5 and Map 240 Lot 4, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute any and all instruments, agreements, and/or other documents as may be necessary to effectuate the purposes of this article and/or take any action relative thereto. This was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. It requires a 2/3 vote. The Finance Committee recommends this article.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt Article 2. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Article 2 is adopted unanimously. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer the care, custody, management, and control of the following parcels of land from the Board of Selectmen for general municipal purposes to the Conservation Commission under the provisions of Section 8C of Chapter 40 of the General Laws and further to dedicate and designate the parcels for conservation purposes, subject to the protections of Article 97 of the amendments to the Massachusetts Constitution. A, the Olive Sherman lot, so-called, bounded northerly by the Lakeville Town line, easterly by the Almy lot and the center line, southerly by a wood lot now formerly of Dayton Industries Company, and westerly by Proprietor's Way. The lot herein conveyed is shown on Assessor's Map 218 as Lot 1. B, the Newhall Wood lot, so-called, bounded northerly by the Sampson Wood lot, easterly by the Almy lot and the center line, southerly by the Kennedy Wood lot, and westerly by that portion of the Newhall Wood lot now or formerly of Resendiz Associates, Inc. The lot herein conveyed is shown on Assessor's Map 218 as Lot 5. C, the Paul lot, so-called, and other adjoining land, together constituting a single parcel of approximately 73 acres. The lot herein conveyed is shown on Assessor's Map 229 as Lot 8. And/or take any action relative thereto. This was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. It requires a 2/3 vote. The Finance Committee recommends this article.
Motion to adopt is read.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt Article 3 as read. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Article 3 is adopted unanimously. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow a sum of money for the construction and installation of a water line to service the town's current police station, elementary school, and any other current and future municipal buildings, and any abutting properties, including engineering and construction costs, and any additional or incidental costs, and/or take any action relative thereto.
I move that the sum of $5 million be appropriated for the purpose of the financing the construction of the installation of a water line to service the town's police station, elementary school, and other municipal buildings and abutting properties, including engineering and construction costs, and any additional or incidental costs, including without limitation all costs thereof as defined in General Law, Chapter 29C, Section 1. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow $5 million and issue any bonds or notes therefore pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7 and 8, and other enabling legislation, and/or General Law, Chapter 29C. That such bonds or notes be general obligations of the town unless the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, determines that they should be issued as limited obligations and may be secured by local system revenues as defined in General Law, Chapter 29C, Section 1. That the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, be authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust established pursuant to General Law, Chapter 29C, and in connection therewith to enter into a loan agreement and/or security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contract with the trust and the Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan, and for any federal or state aid available for the project or for the financing thereof. That the Board of Selectmen is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project and to enter any agreement, execute all documents, and take any other action necessary to carry out the project.
Second.
This article was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. You have the motion and the second, which I'm not going to try and repeat all of that, but hopefully you understood it. And we will have a report from the Finance Committee. They're going to give this report on this article themselves.
I'd like to state first that the Finance Committee is not... The Finance Committee cannot make a recommendation because we have not had the opportunity to study this article. Monday night was the first time that we had a meeting with the town manager or administrator who discussed with us where the funding would come from. But we were not informed up until tonight in detail what was the need for this water line. So having said that, Finance Committee could not move on this article. And we're hoping that also that this article can be moved to the annual town meeting, because this is a large amount of money. It's $5 million plus interest. It's going to cost the average homeowner, if your home is worth somewhere around $350,000, it'll cost you somewhere around $1,500 for this project. If you own a business, it'll cost you somewhere around $7,500 for every million that the business is assessed. Now, having said that, we just feel we did not have enough time to study this. It was all last minute. We had a meeting tonight with the selectmen where they explained the need. And the need is questionable. One of the issues that they've raised is the quality of the water for the school year. And I have a report from the engineers that take care of this water, that this water is good. There is no problem with the water, according to the engineers. But it's basically that, according to town bylaws, an article shouldn't move, which is a money article, unless there's a recommendation, can be a negative recommendation or a positive recommendation, but there should be a recommendation from the Finance Committee, which we can't give tonight. So having said that, my recommendation is that this article be moved to the annual town meeting to give more people a chance to vote on it.
Moderator.
Kevin, if you don't, I want to let the selectmen have a chance to respond, and then I'll go to you next, and then we'll open to the floor.
Just a couple of clarifications. First, I'm going to turn it over to town council to just talk about one point.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Through you, Mr. Moderator of the meeting. Just on the point of the town's bylaw, I'm just going to read the bylaw itself. It's Article 2, Section 2.7 of the town's general bylaws, and it states, no article carrying an expenditure or appropriation of money, except where such expenditure is required by law, shall be acted upon at any town meeting until a report whereon has been made by the Finance Committee. It does not specify that a recommendation has to be made. It specifies that a report. I think we just heard a report from the chairman of the Finance Committee. You can shake your head all you want, but you misquoted the bylaw. The bylaw does not require a recommendation. It requires a report. Otherwise, the Finance Committee would be able to hold town meeting hostage by not making recommendations. In this case, there was a report made. I think the intent is to provide information to town meeting, not to prevent town meeting from acting. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. There's just a couple of other clarifications that need to be made. First and foremost, through town meeting several years ago, at town meeting, we all appropriated money for a feasibility study. It was through that feasibility study that we created a building committee, a town building committee. That town building committee met for several months, and it was through a unanimous decision that the police station be the first building to be moved forward. The police building station committee has been meeting for over a year and a half. Their meetings have been online, they've been on YouTube, the minutes are available, and it was through those meetings and through discussion with the school as well that we thought it would be appropriate to move forward with the water line. There were several reasons for that. As a matter of fact, George, you attended some of those meetings and when we did discuss the water line. So I know that this is not new to you, maybe new to some of your board members, but definitely not new to you. You were there at the meetings. There are several reasons why we feel that this is the appropriate way to go, and I will defer to the water commissioners and Kevin. But first and foremost, there's talk of the water quality through the schools. They spend some money on testing through DEP. They also have to adhere to certain qualities of the water, and those have come into question. They've also had to build several wells in the last 10 years. So you know, we have 50 acres or so on this property, and we have long-term plans for the property. And every time we build a well, there's a certain amount of radius that we take away because of the, we have to make sure that that's protected. So that every time we build another well, we take away property that we, as a town, want to ensure that we have for future growth and future expansion. You know, like I said, the building committee worked together. We are talking about a future library. We're talking about renovations to the COA. So these are long-term goals of the town, and we have the funding available to us now. We have, in many years, have not talked about protecting our own infrastructure and working towards on our own infrastructure, and now we have the capability and the wherewithal to do so. We'd also have better fire suppression, not only for the school, not only for the, you know, for the future police station, but also the fire department's right down the road. So they'd be able to use that too. Future development, like I talked about, and also the water line up along Chase Road. There are, while some people have great wells and have good water, we're not asking for a betterment. We're not asking them to tie into the water line. They don't have to. They can keep their wells. But there are some properties on Chase Road and some developments on Chase Road that don't have that. And, you know, if they want to tie into the water line, they will be able to have that. I have to say, again, this is the first time in many, many years that we are being proactive, that we have the capacity, the ability, and the funding to move this forward. This is not going to be a debt exclusion. This is going to come out of the regular general budget as a line item. And we'll talk about the financing in a little bit, but our town accountant, who we look and we defer to on many occasions, has said to us and has explained to us that this is doable. With that said, I'll turn it over to the moderator.
I'm just going to, because we missed this point earlier, I clarified with town council, when we vote on this, it's going to require a 2/3 vote. I believe I said next we have Kevin from the water
Mr.
department.
Moderator, I just had a question. George, you made a comment or like a statement that based on $350,000 valuation that you expected to pay $1,500. We've also heard that it's going to come out of general taxation. So in my mind, I'm a little confused. Over what period of time is that $1,500 going to be taken out of us? And isn't it just $1,500 out of our tax bill that we're already paying? Is that so? We're not going to be going up $1,500. This is not an override where your tax is going to increase over $1,500. And that $1,500, is that over what period of time?
That $1,500 is a single number. And the reason I bring it up is we'll spend $5 million and not have to raise taxes. You're absolutely correct. The problem with that is we are looking at some big projects, one of them being the police station. And we will go for loans on that. And that will be adding to our tax base. So you're taking from Peter to pay Paul, but the bottom line is this is still going to cost taxpayers that amount.
Okay. I think it's a gray area. I think it's a little murky the way it's being explained. Taxes aren't going to go up. Should the need arise to expend funds in the future that may go above what our taxation rate is, then there would be a need for an override, whether it's a new police station or anything else that would arise.
The point is,
So,
this is $5 million plus interest, which I think brings it up to 7, the number I heard tonight. $7 million that if we kept that money instead of running water pipes and put it towards the police station, plus other available funds that we'll be getting because our tax base is going up because of the new businesses and the way the TIF's expiring, we would not have to do a debt exclusion to build the police station. So no one would feel the pain. This way here, you will.
so you spend the money on the police station rather than the water line.
Exactly.
We have another question or comment from the stage.
The loan that we're talking about, you cannot do for the police station. This loan would go through environmental protection. So that loan would not be available at the 2% for the fire station. Also to clarify, out of your existing tax bill, $99 per year would be set aside for this at your existing bill right now. So if your bill is $3,200, $99 of that you will know is going towards this water line.
If you want to walk up and... No, you can go. She's going to come up.
What Mr. Chico said is actually very correct. But you are spending money, and you will pay taxes on it. There's just no way around it. If the money isn't available for other things, we'll wind up paying. If we don't spend this money, potentially, down the road, we may not have to raise taxes as much because of the other funds that are coming in from the expiring TIF and the Amazon TIF is a little better than the Stop and Shop TIF. So we'll be getting money in 2 or 3 years. So between the two, then we may reach a point where we wouldn't have to raise taxes. And this particular project is questionable as to if it's really needed.
My name is Donna Zatano. I'm from East Freetown. My question and concern is if $99 for the year is coming from our taxes, in order for that to be occurring, there has to be another line item where there's a difference in allocation. So if this water line is to assist our schools, will our school systems be losing money? If your taxes aren't going up, then the money is coming from somewhere else within the budget. Where is it coming from? Can you answer that?
I didn't know if there was any other questions on the water line, but we will get to the, how we're gonna fund this.
Well, I
Again,
mean, I think that's
let-
important. This gentleman is explaining why he's not comfortable in the finance committee supporting it. I, as a resident, I understand exactly. I'm an accountant by trade. I understand the finances completely, and he is absolutely right. We don't even know if this is necessary.
Paul Sadek from East Freetown. George, did the finance committee actually, did the finance committee actually have a meeting and take a vote on the recommendation that you made? Or are you speaking as a citizen?
I am speaking as both. The Finance Committee did not take a vote. The Finance Committee really was not able to study this issue in any depth. This came up very quickly. This meeting was scheduled very quickly, and I don't really understand why this is not being brought up at the annual town meeting, where you would have broader participation.
I just want a point of order, I guess. I don't think you can speak for the finance committee if there wasn't a vote taken. You can speak for yourself, but certainly, Lisa pointed out earlier, you came to a lot of the meetings, the building committee meetings, where we were discussing this water line. You were there. So, I mean, and apparently you haven't been able to get a quorum for your finance committee, so you can't speak for the finance committee. I would like to present that to the town attorney, find out if that's true or not.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, through you to the meeting, again, as we've been told, there was no quorum of the Finance Committee. Finance Committee did not vote on the matter, therefore, the statement made is a statement from an individual member of the Finance Committee, not the Finance Committee itself. It's not a determination of the Finance Committee.
Paul Goodwin, East Freetown. I have a couple of questions. One is, it says 4% on the debt service that was passed out, you just said 2%, is it really 2%?
So I'm gonna turn it over to Kim in a minute. I know, with her, and Kim's our town accountant. She'll talk a little more in depth about what that is. What we're gonna do is a short-term borrowing ban, and then at the same time, we're gonna apply for the, that loan, and for the 2%. So, let me squash any more questions about the finance, and we'll talk about that, and then if anybody else has any questions, we can bring that forward.
Okay, one more question is
Sure.
about betterment. How will we charge people who want to hook up to this water line off of Chase Road if it's built?
Yeah, they would just pay for the hookup at that time, but that's certainly a question for the water commissioners, not the Board of Selectmen or the building committee. But we're certainly not doing the betterment, okay?
I got a question.
No, I'm gonna talk to Kim first and then through the moderator, sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over. I just wanted her to explain the question for Mr. Lubin.
Yep, sure. Well, we'll have Kim answer Paul's question, and then you'll be next.
Thank you, Kim Dale, town accountant. You can tell I never do this.
Just yell like I was overspending my budget.
Oh, okay. So what we basically did, I worked with Jessica, our treasurer. We did a preliminary calculation based on the current bond rate, which is at 4%. We are hoping to go through the process with getting DEP approval for the project. And if that occurs, then we will be eligible to go into their loan pool program for the state revolving fund, and they do offer a 2% interest rate. There are some administrative costs that go with that program, but overall, it is a better option than just going with a straight bond. Initially, though, we would be banning the project in order to get things started, but then we would be looking at financing this for 20 years. And just to say, it's coming out of existing levy capacity. There hasn't been any determination if any other budget items would be reduced so that there would be actually no tax increase, but the tax piece of it would be on average $99 per single-family home. So per year. And again, there's been no determination that that will be added to your tax bill or if it would be adjusted within the operating budget at town meeting.
And while you're walking up, sir, Mrs. Atano, did that answer your question? The last part of that?
Well, not really, because it said it hasn't really been determined whether it will be added to your tax or allocated differently in the operating budget. Did I not understand what you said?
No, you didn't understand what I said. It will be determined at town meeting when the
At the town meeting.
when the omnibus budget is presented. However, initially we will be banning, so we're only looking at an interest cost. So the impact of this would not be immediate. It would probably be within the next operating budget cycle. So again, that impact will be discussed as it goes, but at this point, we're still in the preliminary process of the budgets from all of the departments, so it hasn't been determined yet.
Sir, I'm sorry.
How you doing? I'm Chris down in East Freetown. I just have, so it's going to be $1,500 for 15 years. That's it, right? Or 20? And then the second question is, do you guys have drawings and blueprints for this water line already documented? Because I live on Chase Road. I have 2 little kids. I know I bought my house where I bought it. That's on me. But I literally have 23 feet from my front door to the road. So are you taking any more road back? I know, talking to my neighbor, that there was 6 feet variance, but I can't really afford to lose any more front yard just for my family's safety.
Do you want to speak to the first part? Have Kevin do the layout?
That's a question for the water commissioners and/or Kevin.
Good evening, thank you. To answer your question, the the engineering hasn't been completed right now, okay? We're at the step of, what's it gonna cost? Okay, now we're asking the townsfolk, and when I say we, it's the select board, okay? And the building committee. The intent is to stay within the layout. So whatever the town owns now, that's where it's gonna stay, okay? In the estimate, there's no number carried for purchase of property or easements for that matter. So, it's our intent to stay inside the road layout. Okay.
We're going to stay in the layout.
Yeah, I apologize if I'm being vague. We're going to stay within the road layout. It's as simple as that, okay?
Just as a point of information, this project started out at $3 million a few weeks back. Then it went to $4 million. Now it's $5 million. This may not be the total number. This is a difficult project. The engineering, I think I'll let you talk to that, but there are some issues that I'm not that familiar with at all that could drive the cost up. Just keep that in mind.
I just wanted to respond. George, I have all the respect in the world for you with what you have to do with this FinCom stuff, because God bless you, it's not an easy job. But I will say this. You got up here and said a $3 million number. Yes, that was a $3 million. That was my estimate based on sheer linear footage, not taking into consideration prevailing rates, the need for an additional pump station, that kind of stuff. It was a very raw number, and the building committee was aware of that. But to sit here, or to stand here, excuse me, and say how I don't know much about this, I don't know much about the engineer, there could be cost, that it could go up, that's an awful lot of uncertainty. And I think the folks here are looking to the FinCom and to your leadership for certainty. So the question tonight is, and I'm not going to tell you whether I'm for or against. This was a question presented to the Water and Sewer Commission. How much would it cost to get a water line down there? We facilitated that process by introducing the Board of Selectmen and the Building Committee to Environmental Partners Group, who is a consulting engineer that we use on many boards here in town. From there, they took it. They supplied the information back to the Board of Selectmen. This is the number they came up with, including contingencies, including going under the rail, culvert crossings, the like. It's a public document. It's for everybody's consumption. It's a very thorough document, including $365,000 in contingencies on the roadway. I know it sounds like a lot of money, and we're all taken aback by it, but that's the real cost when you're doing business in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and you're forced to go get prevailing wage a lot of times. And it's not just that. The consulting engineers that you have to have on site, the oversight, the overview, it's costly. So I just want to caution, the number that we have is a hard number. They've stamped it, they've got their name all over it, they're willing to stand by it, and that includes the 20% or the 10% to 15% contingencies and extras unforeseen, okay? An example, it's almost $200,000 police details alone. That's a fixed cost that doing a project in the roadway you have to pay for. So we'll look to try to save some money if the town wants to go in that direction, but I don't want to give anybody the idea that, oh, you're going to leave here and tomorrow the number's going to be $6 million. First off, the article is for $5 million, and that's what you'd be granted permission for them to go into. And second, it's a very well documented estimate. I mean, they took well over a month to come up with this. Site visits, multiple site visits to our pump station, hydraulic curves, the whole 9 yards, stuff that's well above my pay grade. So I want to caution folks that you need to be informed, but this is one of those deals where this is a hard number. This is $5 million that they say is going to cover this. So you get what I'm saying, George? I mean, I don't understand it as much as some. Okay, yeah.
Kevin, the public bidding process.
I'm sorry.
When you go through the public bidding process, so Hey, I'm Gary Mendes, and I live on 178 Chase Road. I've been here since 2009. And I'm outside all the time picking up trash. I love my property. And I ain't seen one person doing any samples. Chase Road is built over wetlands. It was an old cow path. And I think we're gonna open up a big can of worms if we dig up Chase Road. Don't do it. Leave it alone. You're throwing good money at bad something bad, so.
All right, just as a point of order again, if you're gonna speak, that's fine. Well, if you're gonna speak or ask a question, that's fine. You've gotta come up to the microphone to do it, so that we can. I know we can all hear you, but we gotta maintain some semblance of order, so that's why we come up to the microphone, please. Up. Paul.
Good evening, everybody. Paul Sadek again. I'm one of the water commissioners, and we have the hard document here. And when the chairman of the building committee came to us about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and asked what would it be feasible to put a line in to address the needs of not only the police station, but this whole area, which is eventually going to grow with changes with the COA and the library and so forth. We first determined what would be the shortest and least costly route. There was talk about coming up Chipaway Road, where there's a stub on the water line at Chipaway Road, but it's only an 8-inch line. And then we realized that we had a 12-inch line at the intersection of Gurney, Braley, and Chase Road Extension. So as far as mileage goes, that's the shortest distance. And when Kevin gave the original estimate, he did it on the distance. And believe it or not, if you look at the project, he was more than what the project came into. Right now, the project, before we have police details at $200,000, a project manager at $198,000, $547,000 for engineering studies, and another $365,000 for contingencies that we may not have to spend. We have, in addition to what the footage is, we have a booster station over by the highway department. That booster station is for further expansion if we have to go down Bullock Road or Slabridge Road. That's $450,000. And we have a generator pump at the booster station, $125,000. I think these figures are high. They told us they were going to go high. And we also have included in this is a generator at the current booster pump station, which is down on where Chipaway meets Braley Road, New Bedford. There's no electricity there. When the electricity goes out, the people that are serviced by that line, Braley Road and so forth, they live on the residue pressure in the 12-inch main. So all in all, when the chairman of the finance committee gets up and says, well, it was $3,000, well, sure it was $3,000 on an estimate about a year and a half, about 6 to 8 weeks ago. But now we have figures that were done by engineers, and we come up with a total cost with contingencies of $5 million. That's the price tag, and I think it's going to come in less. So, I mean, let's not try to fool people. Here's the package. This is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have Mr. Mendes, then we'll have Mrs. Pacheco, and then we'll get back to
Chase Road is a very heavily used road. Police cars going up and down all day long, ambulance. What's going to happen when this building is taking place? Everybody's going to pay the price. Everybody's going to suffer.
You do have to talk in the, I'm sorry, but you do have to talk in the microphone.
All right, everybody's going to suffer. Everybody's going to pay the price. What is going to happen when the ambulance needs to get down the road and there's a line of traffic? Chase Road is a very heavily used road. It's built over a swamp. It doesn't even have the right gravel underneath it. You guys are going to spend a lot of money trying to put a water line in there, and you know damn well you are. Don't do it. Don't waste the money. Spend the money on something else. You won't regret it.
So the building committee's
again, has met for a year and a half. We've discussed the options. We really truly believe that this is the best option, not only for the police station building project, but for any other future expansion. Again, this town only has a certain amount of acreage that's available to us for future expansion. Every time you build a well, you have a certain area that you have to protect. So your available lot building it keeps dwindling down. That's number one. Number two is we need better fire suppression for the school and also for any future expansion that goes down here. I cannot emphasize enough that this is within our taxation. This is not above and beyond. You're not going to get an extra tax bill of $99 a year. This is within on our budget already. It's truly important that we look to the future. I know it will be, there'll be traffic and whatever, but we've taken everything into consideration. This is the best decision for the town, for not only the people on Bullock Road and Chase Road, but this is the best decision for the town.
Are there any? If anybody else has any questions or comments, you can come up and form a line or sit in one of the front rows. You don't have to wait or anything of that nature. You can go after Greg. Go ahead.
Greg Karen from Elm Street. Just as a point of clarification, Board, are you accepting his report as an official report, or are you not?
It's actually, like town council said, it's not a report. It's a recommendation from one person of the finance committee.
Well, that's not at all what he said.
It's one person.
If I may, again, the report presented was that the finance committee did not have a quorum and therefore could not make a recommendation.
Correct, but earlier in the night, you mentioned that.
I think he has the floor. I think he has the floor,
I
Mr.
can
Moderator.
speak for you. That's fine. So my point being, the bylaw says you need a report. Does this qualify as a report?
Again, the bare minimum requirement of the bylaw is that there be a report. We can discuss the significance of the report, but in essence, the report is that the finance committee did not have a quorum and therefore could not make a recommendation.
Okay, so you're saying the report is that they couldn't meet?
Say that again?
So you're saying his report was that they didn't have time to meet?
I didn't say that. I said the report was that they did not make a recommendation.
Hold on.
I didn't comment on whether they had time to meet.
Okay, so just to be clear, their report has nothing to do with the matter at hand?
No, the report was that they did not have a quorum to make a recommendation.
Hold on one second.
If you want it?
George, did you have a quorum on Monday?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Then, if the gentleman wants to speak further, but if the quorum did not vote, and the meeting occurred and they chose not to vote on the matter, but we don't have a recommendation, but that's the substance of the report.
Right.
There's no definition of what a report is.
Right, but I'm just trying to get to the bylaw. So the bylaw says a report needs to be made. Is what he said tonight qualifying as a report?
The finance committee met and did not reach a conclusion.
So their report is that they didn't vote on the matter.
That's what was reported.
And that's okay, and that's acceptable to the board?
Say it again?
And that is acceptable to the board?
It's not a question for the board. It's a question under the bylaw. The board doesn't decide on whether that's satisfactory or not. It's simply, it's a bylaw requirement that a report be made, and that was the report made based upon the action or non-action of the finance committee.
So there was no report?
Report two. You're confused because you're not listening.
Oh.
All right, hold on.
As I've already said, the finance committee, it's been reported that the finance committee met and took no action. Is that what you reported?
We met, and we took no action on this article.
And that's
And
your
we
report.
had no report.
No, that was your report.
No,
No, he said they had no recommendation. There's a difference. It's a fine.
You're putting words in my mouth.
No, I don't think I am.
Okay, you're a good lawyer. Okay, I'll give you that.
All right, let's take a breather for a second. Greg, do you have another question?
Yeah, so I think he answered it a little while ago. So the line would run from Gurney Mill down that direction.
To here?
Okay.
Okay, sir.
My name is Penny Jornavis, on Alexander Drive. I mean, this may be very well, from my understanding, be the right thing to do, or, you know, if you look at future, so I think it's a great thing. However, I'm just a little concerned when this gentleman here, he's part of the finance committee, and he said, you know, he doesn't have, I mean, you just discussed if he has a report or not, but he stated that he didn't have enough time to evaluate. So my question is, would it be wise to give him the time, a week, a day, 2 days, I don't know, for him to meet and really look into it? Because Lisa says that the taxes are not going to go up, but my understanding is that, I don't know, the lady that came, that lady Kim, she was saying that she's not sure if the $90 are going to be added or not. It just seems like, why don't we give them the time? Why don't we get the facts, and then we present the facts to the residents, and then we, I think, have a better understanding exactly what it all is. Why are we trying to rush things? That's my question. Why don't we give them the time so we can actually have a report? Is that, I mean, does that make sense?
George, if you wouldn't, there was a gentleman that was raising his hand behind you. If you'd give him a few seconds, please.
I would like to hear, you know, what your thoughts are.
And also, this is gonna affect everybody in Freetown, everybody on Chase Road. Why isn't there letters being sent out to let everybody know what they're in for when this happens? Why? Why? Everybody should have a letter sent to their door, in their mailbox, letting them know what's going on. You guys never do this.
One point I neglected to address earlier. When we're talking the finances of the town and everything that our town accountant
Speak up,
said,
can't hear you.
all the information that we received from Kim, our town accountant, is absolutely accurate. But one thing I neglected to mention, we have 2 lawsuits against the town. Going by past history, when these lawsuits are settled, it could cost us who knows what. We just finished paying one off for $2 million. There were some others that I don't know exactly how much they were, but they're always substantial. So those numbers that we were told tonight do not include that. So we're going to utilize all, or not all, but a large number of our cash and what have you. And when these lawsuits are settled, we will have to pay that. And if the money isn't available, that is automatically added to the tax base. That no votes are taken, it's a lawsuit, we pay it. Also, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to ask for a secret ballot when we do vote on this.
Okay, when we get ready to vote, we'll come back to that in a moment.
Again, clarification, there are no lawsuits against the town right now. Thank you.
Hello, Cynthia Mather from East
Okay,
Freetown.
the mic.
Hi, Cynthia Mather from East Freetown, is that okay? 1, 2? Okay. What will be the resources for paying what will be forever water bill and meter services for the town?
I think that, is there an estimate for ongoing costs?
I think the question was, how is the school, the police station, et cetera, going to pay their water bill when they start getting water?
Was that your question, is where the payment for the water is going to come after, for the police station and for the schools? Was that your question? I'm sorry.
Yes.
They'll get a bill like everybody else.
Right.
Someone gets a bill?
So they pay this. I understand. So, hold on, folks. Mrs. Mather, was your question answered?
No. Will that be adding taxes for the town citizens?
So will it cause an increase in the water bill is the question?
I'm not gonna be over above the, maintaining the well. A question I have on this also is, if this is being done to the school, why isn't the region paying their fair share? In other words, Lakeville, isn't this a regional school now? Am I wrong on that?
Again, we're talking about infrastructure, and the infrastructure is a town-wide project. So the town, would pay for the infrastructure.
Okay. But to answer that last question, we will have to pay for the water from the Bedford. There is a fee. I don't know what it is. But a building like this will use a ton of water just for the toilets alone. So I can imagine that there'll be a substantial bill that will be added to the cost of running the school, which will be more than likely more than
Sorry. So currently, the school spends money on testing every year. And they also have to follow DEP requirements, so they may have to add something to the water to ensure that it stays within the acceptable limits of DEP requirements. And number two is the school has had to drill several wells within the last couple of years. So those costs would also be offset by whatever water bill that they would have.
Okay. Hold on, Mrs. Zetanos first, and this gentleman, then you, Mr. Mendez.
I'm just curious, I haven't heard.
Hold on, Mrs.
Oh,
Zetanos.
it's already been-
No,
sorry.
please,
I'm
no,
sorry.
please come.
I just wanted to, I just haven't heard a clarification. Why are we rushing? It seems like there's a big urgency. Why aren't we giving the proper time to get all the facts, give them the time that they need to come out to do a recommendation if that's what the bylaw states? So why are we trying to rush and not just maybe, get all the facts down and then present to us? Does that make sense? Like, because at the end of the day, why are we rushing things? Because
town is
then
the people.
The town
We
gets
make you.
sued, or there's, things come up, like, let's present all the facts, and I think it's probably the best thing to do, what your plan is, but why don't we just be open and straightforward and present all the facts before we move forward? That's just, and I haven't heard it. What's the urgency? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to allow the selectmen to answer, then we'll go back to the questions in order.
So again, we've been working on this for a year and a half. We have also, environmental partners have come out several times to survey, to ensure that the water pressure would stay the way it should be. We also had to look at fire suppression and what it would be for the new police station and ensure that that would be met as well. So there were several factors that went into this. Again, they've had this for a while. I've met with the town accountant, I've met with the town administrator to come up with ways to ensure that this would be a doable solution for the town and within taxation. I would never bring a project forward if I didn't think it was affordable. And I would never bring a project if I thought it was rushed. So I guess because where I've been sitting and being involved for so long, I feel comfortable. And I think that that's why you have me here, is in order to be comfortable. So I'm telling you and suggesting to you that those criteria that you're talking about have been met. The $99 per year is within taxation, okay? So that's how that is, that's where it's, you're not gonna get an extra bill for $99. It's already within your bill. That's number one. Number two is if anybody here wants to run for the finance committee, I think you should, because they have had problems meeting and having quorums, so they're not able to vote on certain things. And this is not a short-term problem, this has been a long-term problem. So, you know, the board, the building committee, the board of selectmen, we have been meeting, we have been making these decisions. They are online, the minutes are available, you can go look at them on YouTube. All of our meetings are open to the public. They have been for the last year and a half. So I'm telling you that this has not been rushed at all.
I'm not disputing that. It's a little confusing when he said that, the chairman said that he didn't have the proper time. That's number one. Number two is, Kim, is what she stated is a little confusing because you're saying that there will not be an increase, and maybe there needs to be an increase. I'm not questioning, maybe it's what needs to be done, and that's what the price, you know, of living in the town and doing the right things and looking at the future. But it's just not clear, so my question is like, why don't you have all the facts and then present them? Because she was confusing, I think the lady agrees with me that what you're saying is like it won't increase. Maybe it won't increase in the short term. I don't know all the terms, but like this cycle. Then maybe the next cycle, then it'll have to be increased to $99. It may have to be so, but like, why don't we have all the facts, all the numbers before we move, you know, forward? That's my question.
Hold on, Mr. Zatano's gonna be first, then you.
I think that there are too many things. You may have spent a lot of time. I will not debate that one iota. But you have to realize, I don't believe this is a representative sample of our town. And if you're going to do something that we still have vague information on, things aren't determined, intent is questionable, not a guarantee of getting loan in the trust. There were just way too many questions. I don't think you should have a small group of townspeople make that decision. I think it needs to be at the annual town meeting. I think there needs to be more public notice of these things that you've spent all this time on. Well, that's wonderful, but I didn't know anything about it. Okay? You're saying, oh, it's online, we do this, we do that, that's great. Well, you need to let people know about it. And it hasn't been told. And I don't feel this is a representative sample of our town that should be taking the vote on saying, yes, support this $5 million project or not. Thank you.
Mr. Maggi.
And also, you said you've already drilled all these extra wells, so they're already in place, the money's already spent, and you're gonna tell me you're gonna send water miles away and still not test what's coming into the people's schools with all their children drinking it? You're gonna trust the pipe? You're not gonna test it again? Right? Is that what you're saying?
The water department tests it annually, weekly,
Yeah.
monthly, whether it's added on or not.
Well, I
it's
think
the same
everybody's
test.
healthy right now, so I think we should just leave it alone.
You know, Steve Lally, I live on Chase Road. True statement. I mean, bare minimum, the people that live on Chase Road or the people that are being affected by the construction, why wasn't there better notification? I only heard this from a neighbor. The reason why I was here late was because I just found out about it. I mean, I know I've only been living in the town a few months, but at the same time, I think better notification to the people that, at a bare minimum, that are directly affected by the construction and the project at hand, never mind financially, should be notified. Why should it that we hear from neighbors, friends, whatever, last minute, so that people can make arrangements to be here and speak their voice?
That'd be directed to selectmen. How were people notified at the meeting?
I know I wasn't.
Hold on, let them respond.
I just knocked at everybody's door for you guys.
So annual town meetings, special town meetings, they're posted. I think that Jackie went through the listing of where they're all posted. They're posted also on our Facebook page. They're posted on the town hall webpage. I think that they were also sent out, through various other computer sources.
It's on us to check on you, and not versus
Wait a
notify us.
I'm sorry, you asked me a question and I'm answering your question. By,
Hold on.
By law, we followed everything that we do for every other special town meeting and for every other annual town meeting. So we've hit all of our criteria the way that we have done for the last, I don't know, as long as this town has been in existence. Also, but we are addressing your concerns right now. We are listening to you. We're listening to your dialogue. So
Well, I'm going to let Mr. Fitzgerald speak. Is there anybody else that is going to have a question or a comment to? All right. So if you would just stand in the aisle so that I know how many more people are waiting to speak. And I'm just trying to gauge how long until we move on to a vote. So if you're going to ask a question or make a comment, and you know that now, if you would come to the line just so that we know. And I won't necessarily close the door. I'm just trying to gauge. Go ahead.
I have two questions. One, is the Board of Selectmen unanimously in favor of this article?
Yes.
And two, is there any downside to postponing this to the regular town meeting, which is coming up in 10 days?
Regular town meeting. Regular town meeting in June.
10 days is
The next town meeting, the 24th.
No, that's the marijuana election on the 24th. The
Oh,
town meeting would be-
okay. Well, I need to know. Would there be an issue about postponing it to the next regular town meeting?
So right now, we're going into the design and engineering plans for the police station, and they really need a direction as to whether we're going to continue with a well or whether we're going to go with the water line. So there are some cost savings along those lines that we need to address as well.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the annual town meeting.
Second.
I just want to clarify, is tabling would kill it or postponing it and put it off till the annual town meeting?
Well, my motion was to table it.
I just want, because you said both, I wanted to.
Well, my intention was to postpone it till the annual town meeting.
All right, so
Okay, but
we're
if,
saying motion to postpone?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so that would be a motion to postpone. The annual town meting is the first Monday in June, just so everybody understands. Okay. So that would be basically a continuance for this article until June. Well, no, he's saying to continue this article, not to vote on this article tonight, but to continue. Well, he's not trying to put it on that warrant, he's trying to just continue this one article of this meeting. The last time we did this, we said it was only for the one article. Continue.
That would be, continue the time.
That's what he's trying to do. Yeah, so George, to clarify, you want to have this one article just continue until June?
What did the attorney say?
I'm sorry, we should have done it on the microphone. Town meeting can't direct the Board of Selectmen as to what to put on the warrant for the annual town meeting. So you have a couple of options. You can postpone, you could essentially postpone to a time certain this meeting. So this meeting would actually not end tonight, and you would continue this to the June date. Or you could table this article, and then it would be up to the Board of Selectmen whether to put it on the agenda, the warrant for the annual town meeting. Unless a petitioned article is placed on the warrant, the Board of Selectmen determines what goes on the warrant. So you have the choice of tabling this, which would end it for tonight.
For tonight, and then they could put it on.
And then they can put it on again for the end.
Table.
Okay, so George's motion is clarified as to table this article for tonight.
Second.
Is this off again?
No, we can hear you.
All right, so we have a motion made and seconded to table this article. Tabling it just ends it, and then it's up to the selectmen whether they want to bring it up again or not.
How are we gonna know?
It would be the same way. It would appear on a warrant again in the spring.
Well, I thought, excuse me, I thought you just said that if he tabled it, it would be up to the select people to put it on the warrant for the annual meeting.
Right.
Is that not what you just said?
Yep, so if it's tabled, procedurally, there are two different things. One is table, one is to continue. If
Okay.
it's tabled, which is what we're doing right now, or what the motion is right now, that's the end of that article for tonight. It's up to the selectmen whether or not they want to put it on the warrant at the next meeting, or if they want to just let it go.
When you
If
say
it's-
next meeting, which meeting are you
The
talking
next
about?
meeting that we have...
Annual meeting in June?
Yes, the next scheduled,
And they will,
well, oh, hold on. The next meeting that we have scheduled right now is the annual meeting in June.
okay.
They could choose to call another one sooner if they wanted to.
Well, then, then I think you were misleading when you were trying to get a recommendation from him, how he wanted to handle it, whether it was to
No,
table it,
I very clearly said, if he tables it, it kills it. If he continues it,
if he
if he
continues it.
continues it, it has to be dealt with on the date and time that it's continued to.
And so could he say that he wants it to be continued to the annual meeting?
No,
You're
Yes,
saying
yes,
no,
yes.
because the select
He
board has
he can
to.
continue it to the same night.
But the motion needs to be different.
The motion needs to be worded differently, but it can be continued to the same night. Right.
And you have to continue everything.
So the warrant,
Everything.
no, just this one, it would be just this one article.
Just this one. See, I mean, it's like there's information coming from here. You're saying one thing. The council said something else. He has said something else. There's just a mishmash of information coming. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, I second the motion because I understood that it was going to be put off and would be at the annual meeting upon the select board's decision to put it on the warrant. Not that the select board would put it at another meeting before then, and we would find out the same way we did about this one.
If it's continued, it would be on the date and the time that it was chosen to continue. So if the meeting voted to continue it to the first Monday of June, whatever that date is, that's when it would be. If
So
it's
then-
ta-
So
if
that's
it's-
what he needs to do, continue, not table.
If he tables it, if it gets tabled, then it's just dead and it can come up anytime or next.
Yeah, we don't want to table it, we want to continue to the annual meeting.
Let me change my motion.
Back straight.
Hold on, you withdrew the previous motion?
Yes.
So we have no motion on the floor right now.
The motion I want to make is to continue this to first Monday in June, is that right?
This article, right?
This
Tenth
article,
article. Tenth article. Okay.
to the first Monday in June.
Okay. Yes.
That's the same night as the annual town meeting, so everybody knows.
Yes.
Yep. You need to pick a time.
Time?
Right, so that normally the meeting starts at 7 o'clock.
7 days.
The special town meeting would be at 7 o'clock, so you'd want to go at like 6:30 to be earlier than that. Right, folks, the annual town meeting starts at 7:30. To continue this, it has to be before 7:30.
So 7 o'clock.
We typically have a special town meeting at 7 o'clock. What they're telling me is that it would have to be earlier than that.
6:55.
You can do that.
All right, then, 6:55. 6:55.
I'm gonna bring it up anyway, Joe, as well. They're gonna bring it up at the town meeting.
So,
Forget about it.
7:30 on,
6:30.
no, that's, whatever time the annual town meeting starts,
7:30.
that is when we should move this meeting to.
Yeah, when everybody's
When everybody's at the meeting.
5 minutes earlier.
This is right now is just a procedural conversation about the time and those questions again.
Mr. Moderator.
Okay, hold on one second. We got to complete George's motion before anybody can talk. So, George, please.
What would be the best way to do this to ensure that it's done during the annual town meeting? You tell me, Board of Selectmen. Can we make it for 7:30, 8 o'clock? I mean, it makes no difference to me. 5
If I may, Mr. Moderator, it's not going to be done, it's going to be done on the same date as the annual town meeting, but it's not going, we will be continuing this meeting. So if the motion is to continue this meeting, this article until June 4th at 7:30, which is the same time as town meeting, what would happen is that on June 4th at 7:30, the moderator would open the annual town meeting and take a motion to recess that town meeting to then address this special town meeting. You would then reopen this special town meeting, address this article, then close that meeting out and return to the annual. I know it sounds complicated, but that's how you would have it happen at essentially the same time.
So the motion that's been settled on right now is that this article, and I want to make sure, folks, that that's this article only, not the three we've already voted on, not the one that comes after. This article only would be continued to June 4th, which is a Monday night, at 7:30 here in the elementary school auditorium. That's the motion that's been made and seconded. We can now have discussion on the motion, and I'm told that Mr. Sullivan has discussion on. Nope, he's good. Okay. Does anybody have any discussion? This is purely on the motion to continue this until June. Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay. The motion by majority is adopted. Article 4 alone is continued until June 4th at 7:30. Okay, folks, we still have Article 5 to get through. So Article 5 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of money for the purpose of supplementing the stabilization fund or the capital stabilization fund, or take any action relative thereto. This was submitted by the Board of Selectmen. It requires a majority vote. The Finance Committee recommends this article.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $1,839,178 for the purpose of supplementing the capital stabilization fund and take any action relative thereto.
Second.
Okay, a motion is made and seconded to transfer from free cash $1,839,178 to the capital stabilization fund. Are there any questions or discussion on this article, on this motion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Article 5 is adopted unanimously. Now, because of what we did a minute ago, we can't adjourn. We've got to do this differently. What I need now is a motion to recess this meeting until June 4th at 7:30, at which time we will only be doing Article 4, the water article.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to recess this meeting until June 4th at 7:30 for the water article only, Article 4. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we stand recessed until June.